Winning comes in all shapes and sizes. It's different for everyone. One thing is certain. Every day there's an opportunity for a win. Just like scratchers from the Virginia Lottery. Everyday grab and go. Everyday giftable. Everyday fun. It's where anticipation meets instant gratification. Like the new Virginia Lottery Scratcher High Roller Blackjack with a chance to win up to 10 times your prize. Now, that's an everyday win. Drive to a retailer near you. Odds of winning any prize, 1 in 4.16.
The Emerald Queen Casino Fact or Fiction returns Tuesday, September 7th. It's your chance at a weekly $1,000 prize and a grand prize of $10,000. All on your home for college football Saturdays and the NFL. Sports Radio 950, KJR.
All right, we're back on a Friday. Ian Furness with you. We're at No Lie Brewing in Spokane. Big thanks to them for their hospitality. Also, we're sponsoring our Cougar segment every Tuesday with Alex Brink and Christo Bruce, and also our Wednesday segment with Pro Football Focus's Steve Palazzolo. Let's talk a little Cougs right now. Cougs, Utah State, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock kickoff on the Pac-12 Network, right after the Huskies in Montana finish up things. So you can hear that game, of course, here on 950 KJR. Joining us right now, Beacon Plumbing Hotline, the voice of the Aggies, Scott Gerard. Scott, how are you?
It's been a while. It's always good to catch up with people in Seattle. Don't know this, but Ian, the godfather of sports radio in Salt Lake City. So I feel like I'm speaking to royalty right now. I'm all about it.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, you've taken that station to new heights that I never could have. So congrats on the success down there. Let me catch our listeners up here as the Cougs and the Aggies get ready to take on each other tomorrow down in Pullman, 8 o'clock. Where is Utah State football? Because I think when I mention Utah State football, people are like, oh, isn't Gary Anderson back there again and everything else? There's an Anderson as a head coach, but it's not Gary. What has happened down there the last couple of years?
It's been an interesting couple of years, to say the least. Yeah, Matt Wells left, took the job at Texas Tech. He had Jordan Love as his quarterback. They were 11-2. They were nationally ranked. And this team was humming along, and they had a bright future. And then Gary Anderson takes over the program, and you know, it didn't go well. Gary 2.0 here at Utah State did not turn out well, and there are a lot of factors involved, and COVID hit, and that made a lot of problems even worse. And so Gary was dismissed in the middle of last season. They went 1-5, and frankly weren't even that good as far as that record indicates. It was a long 6 games last year, and this team really struggled. And so Blake Anderson comes in with a whole lot of energy, a whole lot of excitement. But it's gonna be a building process. They've got some work to do here, and the schedule is a lot lighter than it's been over the last 2 years. So they've got a chance to win some games. But you know, we're probably looking at about a 5-6 win season this year at best, as this team tries to get it back on the right tracks where it was a few years ago.
Scotty, help me out here and our listeners, because you know Gary Anderson is one of the most intriguing and interesting and confusing coaches in history. I mean, he's at Utah State that first go-around. He's got Bobby Wagner, Robert Turbin, a ton of talent, parlays that into going to Wisconsin. Then Oregon State, he quits abruptly, and then it doesn't work out when he goes back to Utah State. I think he had a Utah stop in between as an assistant coach as well with Kyle Whittingham. He made it work one time there. Why did he not make it work the second time there and put the program in the position it's in right now?
It's the $1,000,000 question, and I don't know if it's the Mike Riley thing where you just can't go home again. I don't know. And I consider Gary to be a really good friend. I know you know Gary really well. Yep. He's a good man, and he's a great individual. But for some reason, I don't know if it was a lack of fire. It just wasn't the same. If he missed on some assistant coaches, it's a great question, and I think a lot of us here around the program could really do a deep dive and try to figure out what exactly happened. But it got away from him, and it fell apart pretty quick. And you know, being here in the state, that Utah State, the margin of error is razor thin. You got to compete against BYU and Utah, and you got to make sure that you're in the fight in some recruits. And if you let up for a second, it falls apart really, really quickly. And it got away from him. It got away from that staff last year, and now they're trying to put it together. I've got a ton of faith in Blake Anderson. I love the staff that he's put together. Recruiting's been much, much better, and hopefully we'll start to see it here in the near future.
Scott Gerard is the voice of the Utah State Aggies, joining us here on the Beacon Plumbing Hotline. Cougs and Utah State, Pac-12 Network coming up 8 o'clock tomorrow. Blake Anderson comes there from Arkansas State. What do we know about him? What does he like to do on offense? What is that offense supposed to look like? I think he's got a quarterback he brought with him as well as a transfer.
Yeah, it's an offense that's going to be very similar to what Utah State ran in Matt Wells' last season. They're going to try to get a playoff every 6 or 7 seconds. It's going to be high up-tempo, spread you out. It's kind of what a lot of schools around college football is doing these days. And so the question is, do you have the horses to make it work? The system can work if you've got a great quarterback. Right now, they've yet to make a decision on who the starter is going to be. They may play two. It may all just be a smokescreen. I believe when the dust settles that Logan Bonner, who, as you mentioned, the transfer from Arkansas State, I believe he's going to be the guy going forward. Andrew Peasley is the guy battling for the job, and he got a little bit of time last year. I think it's going to be Logan Bonner. They may mess around with two quarterbacks in this game against Washington State, but ultimately I got to imagine it's going to be Bonner. It's going to be a fun offense to run. The problem is I don't know if they've got the horses to be able to run it, and if they don't, then that's going to put a lot of weight on that defense. But they've got some good, decent running backs. They don't have a guy at running back yet. They've got 3 or 4 guys that they like. They've got a pretty good stable of wide receivers. The offensive line's a big question mark, as they just don't have a lot of depth at that position. But other than that, I think they've got a chance to do some good things this year and may hang in there a little bit with Washington State. Defensively,
they'll see a Wazoo run and shoot that's going to feature a lot of Max Borghi, which we didn't see last year in the limited games they had. He was banged up most of the year. We're not sure who the quarterback is, Jaden Delore or Jarrett Garantano. Probably see maybe a little bit of both with that run and shoot. What should we expect from the Aggies on defense?
Blitz, and more blitz. They want to get after the quarterback. Washington State might get some big plays on him, but they are going to try to put as many hits on those quarterbacks as they can. They want to be as the defensive coordinator was the co-DC at the University of Miami last year. They want to, they say, he keeps saying we're going to come from all different angles, all different packages, try to confuse the quarterbacks as much as possible. They do feel like that maybe they could confuse whoever's in a quarterback at Washington State a little bit, bring pressure. There's a guy to keep an eye on. His name's Justin Rice. He was the Mountain West Defensive Preseason Player of the Year last year at Fresno State, and then the Mountain West shut down football, so he transferred to Arkansas State, led the nation in tackles for losses last year at Arkansas State, and then came back to the Mountain West with Blake Anderson at Utah State. He's the best defensive player. They'll do everything they can to slide him all over the field to try to make some plays. He's going to be the guy to watch defensively for Utah State.
Hey, listen, man, safe travels up to the God's country, the Palouse, and I'm sure we'll get a good game tomorrow because it's the Cougs in the opener, and they always give make sure it's close no matter who they're playing. So enjoy the time in the Palouse, and we'll talk down the road, Scotty. Thank you.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
My story is about the time that I was broken up with at the 9/11 memorial. Twice.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures. Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.